All right, I think we're live. I think so. Okay. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much to Mike for hopping on. I am very excited for today's stream, considering that I just finished Andor season 2 literally like 5 minutes ago.
Nice.
Or the most recent 3 episodes. I will say that I, so far through the second season, have not been the biggest fan actually of these.
Really?
No.
All right. Well, that will make for great conversation.
I agree.
Uh,
So I'll let you
absolutely.
start off with some of your thoughts on the season because I was not able to watch some of your lives
No,
on your
absolutely.
thoughts on the season.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me, as per usual. We were talking about it before the stream, but we are wearing the same shirt, which is hilarious. Pretty awesome. That was completely coincidental. Was not on purpose. But yeah. So I'm very intrigued to hear what you thought of the first 6 episodes. But I'll give you my take first. So the first 3 episodes, I will say, were slower, much like the first season. The first three episodes of season 1 were definitely slower too. It sort of sets the stage. And I thought the next 3 episodes, 4, 5, and 6, this week's episodes, were just like perfect in stride. Like what I kept saying all week is episode 4 was great, episode 5 was great, but episode 6 is like the perfect combination of all these different story arcs happening at the same time. And that's why this sort of 3 episode arc type deal works. Like that's why this whole thing, it works out, because that third episode needs to happen on the same day as that first episode, or else it's really going to feel like Andor, as people have been calling the first season at least. So I love this 3 episode arc. I mean, it kills my sleep schedule because I'm up all day making breakdown videos, but it's great for the audience watcher because you get to watch all 3 episodes immediately. It's like watching an Andor movie. And for me, these last 3 were that perfect sort of movie quality in terms of an Andor movie. I think, and hopefully this will make you feel better, is the back half of the season is going to be much better than the first half. I think the Gorman Massacre, we're going to talk about that when we're talking about predictions and stuff. The Gorman Massacre and all this stuff that happens later on in the season is going to make it that much better and get people so much more excited for what's to come. And of course, it leads right into Rogue One. But I'm dying to know, because you just finished watching the episode 6 and everything, and we'll talk about the spoilers and Cinta dies and all that stuff. But the biggest thing, the whole topic of conversation that's been going on for the last, I don't know, 48 hours, however long it's been, since 72 hours, Bail Organa recast. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, depending on how you feel about this, what you're going to think, but I did not like the recast at all. I thought it looked like a very poor job. I would have preferred Bail Organa to just never be in the story if that's what they were going to do.
I agree with you. Yes. I mean, my first instinct was this. No, God, no. Much like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's grown on me a little bit. I will say that. The explanation from Tony Gilroy was helpful, and I don't know if you saw this yet, but he pretty much said the reason that we gave Bail Organa for just one scene, he literally just says hello and goodbye to Mon Mothma. It's like, why even do that, right? But pretty much the explanation was, we're going to be getting a lot more Bail in episodes 7, 8, 9, and so on. So they had to establish that Bail Organa will be in the story. So, and of course, they had to recast him because of scheduling conflicts with Jimmy Smits and all that stuff. I agree with you that recasting a character like that is very strange. You go from the Kenobi series, where it looks like Jimmy, to Rogue One, where it looks like Jimmy. Now you have a tiny little sliver of a story in between where it looks like somebody completely different. And it
Yeah,
is.
definitely. One of the things that I first said was, like, even from Rogue One, where Andor takes place before it, he looks older than he does in Rogue One. He looks like an old man.
Yeah, he
A
does look a
lot.
little. I mean, it's a completely different guy. So yeah, but
Yeah.
he does look a little bit older for sure. It's just, it's so out of place because we've seen recasts before. Star Wars is a weird universe where the time doesn't really make sense. It's not a cohesive timeline. It's not like the MCU where it's well, I guess the MCU bounces around too. It's not like a timeline where A New Hope was the first story and we've been going forward in time ever since. We jump around the timeline all the time. So there are recasts. I mean, Obi-Wan's been recast, Vader's been recast. Everybody gets recast at some point to an extent. But a Bail Organa recast at this point in the timeline just feels very, very strange. However, if we are getting a lot more of his story, in the next 6 episodes. I get it. There must be something, and we can go into predictions, but there must be something that's happening with Bail Organa that's so important that it had to be put into the story. Like, it had to be, or else this would be the end of the world, or else they probably would have found a way around it. Like you said, like they would have just the story, because you don't need it, but it seems like they need it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of at right now. Is like I'm not gonna like give like say anything like awful about him
Yeah.
being recast until they prove themselves in the next few episodes to see if what they're gonna do with the story like makes sense or if it's completely like didn't need to happen at all. So I'm
No.
kind of putting my brakes on like my full thoughts about the recast until I see what is gonna continue in the next 6 episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of thought the same thing. I had a kind of an easing into the whole Bail Organa recast. It was a rumor for a while, months and months ago. So it was in the back of my brain, and when they recasted him live on the watch party, I was like, "Oh my god, they actually did it." And then when I was making my breakdown, I was like, "I don't like this." And then I was kind of like, but yeah, they got to prove it, because if Bail Organa's story is incredible in the next 3 episodes, maybe it just doesn't matter anymore, but it still doesn't look like Bail Organa. I don't know. It's a whole back and forth. It
Yeah.
the argument of recast and deep fake and all this other stuff. It's a never ending argument for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's gonna get some taking used to if it's good, or it's gonna be something that's gonna completely throw like a 50-50 in the middle of people hating him or loving him. And like it's like,
Yeah.
well, when he first appeared on the screen, actually, I didn't even realize it was him at first.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was that bad. Like
Yeah. Well, that's sort of why they did it, I think, in this episode, because if that happened next week when Bale's maybe in the Senate or something, and they're like, "Who's that new senator?" We'd be like, "Okay, new guy, sure." But no, we got to know that it's Bale first, so that when it happens, we're in the know. Another thing that's really strange is, I think, like, it might not be the only legacy character that gets recast. I mean, there's a lot of story left to be told, and because it leads into Rogue One, because it leads into the original trilogy, we could be getting some other familiar faces. So maybe some other Rogue One characters, some rebels that sit at the table or something like that could get recast. I don't know. It might Bale might just be the tip of the iceberg in terms of Rogue One characters that might be in the back half of this season. But I don't know if any other ones will be recast. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
yeah, for sure. And I like if I'm gonna say one character that I was glad didn't get recast in this season, it was Krennic because he's like been a highlight for the show for me. I enjoyed
Yes.
him in these last 3 episodes, even if the overall season was not what I expected it, or am enjoying it as much as I enjoyed the first 6 episodes of season one.
Yeah, I mean, Krennic was. I mean, so far he's only been in 2 episodes, and those 2 episodes that he's in are steal the show type deal. Like, he is that good. So when he's in any scene, he's like, it's some of the best stuff. Like that first episode in season 2, where he's in that meeting with Dedra and Krennic and Partagaz, he steals the show. Like, it's everything, every word he says, you're like, okay, 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 okay. And they use him to pretty much establish the Gorman stuff. And that's what's really cool about it. But then when he comes back in episode 6 and he has that whole verbal battle between him and Mon Mothma instead of a lightsaber battle like we're used to in Star Wars, it's perfect. It's so good. Krennic is definitely a top tier villain in Star Wars for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. He is definitely a very strong villain, and something that I'm also looking forward to in the next few episodes. So I will like kind of skip ahead to that. Is K2SO has to show up eventually, and I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes, I am too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
The rumor is episode 8, so it will be next week. So because next week 7, 8, 9. Uh, I think from the trailers, at least, it looks like there's a bunch of K2 or KX series, whatever they're called, the droids that K2.
yeah,
There's a bunch of those on Gorman. So hopefully during that Gorman massacre, we get the whole K2SO stuff where he turns to the light and how it's going to be a big deal. I mean, they're keeping it a secret, and usually when they keep stuff a secret, it means it's a secret, and they want it to be a big old reveal, much like this Bail Organa thing. But yeah, K2SO is a great character in Rogue One. I just rewatched Rogue One right before Andor season 2 started, and he's the best. Like, he's so good. He's witty, and he's like he's like an R2D2 but speaks English. Like, he's that good.
yeah. And
Yeah,
Rogue One is like my favorite Star Wars movie. So like I
yeah,
was really I guess maybe I'm easier on this show than I am on most because I like Rogue One so
yeah.
much. And so maybe there's some bias there, and maybe that's why I'm being a little easier on season 2 than I might be on another show that I really think would be as bad as season 2 has been for me. Or slow,
Yeah.
I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Andor, it has been slower. It has the time to be slower because it is 12 episodes rather than 8, and it's characters that you have to develop. Like it's brand new cast, other than Cassian and Mon Mothma, and I guess now Krennic. But other than those two, and Saw Gerrera, I guess, but he's barely in season 1. It's a brand new cast. Like Luthen's new, Bix is new, Brazo is new, B2 is new, Marva is new. All these characters are new, so you have to sort of introduce them, and it's a slow process, I guess. But you spend so much time with these characters. The reason Andor is so good, and I think at least the reason I think Andor is so beloved by many, is because it's the same reason, I guess, that the animated shows are. You spend so much time with these characters. The animated shows are like 24 episodes a season, so you get so much time to spend with characters like Ahsoka Tano and Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus, and that's why they become fan favorite characters. And the same can be said about Andor because it's 12 episodes. They're all an hour long. You spend so much time with these characters. I think that's sort of the secret to the success over at Disney Plus with Grogu and Din Djarin too, because you spend 3 seasons with these people and you know them so much more. Like you have more screen time for a character like Cassian Andor than you do for many main characters in Star Wars. Probably Luke Skywalker. I haven't done the math yet, but 12 episodes, an hour each. Like you're talking about way more screen time than Luke Skywalker or Leia or Han. And those are, I mean, the main characters
Top
of
tier
Star Wars.
characters. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's something to be said about these long form shows and how much time you spend in the world of Star Wars and why they are so it's almost easier to tell a good story on Disney Plus, and that's why they're probably hesitant to go back to the movie theaters. But yeah.
And well, that would make sense because as much as like the last 3 did really well at the box office, I mean, the backlash that they got was just incredible.
Oh
Not in
yeah.
a good way. It was
Yeah, and that
quite
brings us
the
back that literally brings us right back to the Bail Organa recast, knowing that there's going to be backlash to that. Because Andor is for the most part a beloved show. I think for the people who are actually hating on it. Like people, of course, either don't like it or don't like it too much or whatever. Uh, but the people who are constantly hating on the show, it's a very small portion of people. And I think the reason for that, or I guess the reason for that is because they aren't ruffling any feathers. And with Bail Organa, it's ruffling some feathers, and they know that. They know that. So that's why it's very interesting that they're doing it. Must be for some reason, and that will hopefully be revealed next week.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I've seen on YouTube, like I've tried to steer away from like people's reactions to the show, not just because I hadn't seen it, but because like I kind of like last year got sick and tired of all the bashing that the shows got last year. Like that was insane to see, and like I hated all the negativity that was like. And I've seen like season 2's even getting a lot more negativity than season 1 got, and season 1 got quite a bit at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. Yeah, it's just it's really crazy. I really think at this point, because Star Wars is such a huge brand, there's billions of fans around the world. I think at this point, there's never going to be a Star Wars project that gets released without some sort of backlash, whether it's enormous like The Acolyte or something, or very small like with Skeleton Crew. Like it's going to be some sort of backlash because people just love to hate, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like on to that is like I have met someone who has disliked every project in Star Wars. I have not met like I have not seen a project that I have not found a hater for. And that
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It sucks. I mean, it sucks, but what are you gonna do? I mean, not everybody likes everything. That's for sure. I always compare it to like food. Like I, I like, and Chad, don't get mad at me. I like pineapple on pizza.
Ooh,
I
those
just
are fighting words. Those are fighting words.
I do. Okay, no, I do. And a lot of people would be like, Mike, you're an idiot. That's disgusting. And obviously, yeah, sure, whatever, fine. What's up, Adam? Uh, yeah, no, sure. That's like to me, it's like everybody has different tastes, and that's why when there's so many fans, everybody's gonna love a different thing. And going tying this all back to Andor, Andor specifically is so different from all the other Star Wars content we've got. It's so ground level. There's no lightsabers. There's no force. There's no none of that. So you really got people who maybe don't like the side of Star Wars that is the force, or maybe not don't like it, but they like the characters more like Han Solo. The ground ground level characters, and that's why Cassian is more for them, or Andor is more for them. And the same can be said about a show like Ahsoka. It's way more force and lightsabers. So you have different options for different types of fans, because there's a lot of different types of fans, because they all have differing opinions.
Yeah, I really agree. And there was something that you said in that sentence that now we can move on and talk about like theories for the episodes. You said no force in Andor. What is your
Ooh,
thought on Darth Vader and Darth Sidious appearing, or Palpatine in the Senate?
that is a fantastic question. If you asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said there is no doubt in my mind that one of those two characters, Palpatine or Vader, would be in this series. However, two weeks later, sitting here on May 2nd, I don't know. I really don't think so anymore. There's the whole scene from one of the trailers where it looks like Dedra's being force choked. I don't think that's the case anymore. I really think that could be the Rhydonium from episode 5, episode 5, where Saw Gerrera and Wilmon are getting the Rhydonium. I think that could have something to do with why she's holding her neck. Maybe the Rhydonium's being pushed into that room and she's being almost like put to sleep or something. But there's a bunch of different options for why she's holding her neck. Somebody actually just brought up, I read this recently, that somebody said, what if Cyril dies? Or something along those lines. The Empire kills Cyril and Dedra loved him or something, so she's freaking out. That could be another option. So that whole Vader force choking her, it's not very likely. The more likely option to me would be Palpatine, because the Senate stuff and Mon Mothma specifically calling him out in the Senate and saying the monster will come for us all. But Tony Gilroy has been very adamant about not wanting to write stuff for Palpatine. It's just too big of a task to bring him in. Now, there's mentions of Palpatine all the time, like twice an episode at least, they're mentioning Palpatine. But will we see either one of them? I think it would be a surprise at this point. But hey, they've given us surprises. I didn't think Cinta was going to die this week. I didn't think Bail Organa would get recast. So they've given us surprises. But I would say it's pretty low percentage chance that either of those characters will show up. Now, I will grant you, you mentioned Force user, and you brought up Palpatine and Vader. But there is one more Force user that could, in theory, show up, and that would be Leia Organa. She does, of course, she's not known for being a Force user, I guess, in Star Wars, but she is. Because they just introduced Bail, I think, and like you mentioned, there has to be a reason for it. And maybe that's to bring this into Leia, because at this point in the timeline, Leia is probably like 17, 18, maybe even 19 years old. She's involved in politics. She's involved with Coruscant. She's involved with the Senate. So if we're spending time there, if we're spending time in the Senate with Mon Mothma calling people out and all this stuff, Leia could show up. I mean, she's just as likely as Vader or Palpatine at this point, I guess. But I don't know. What do you think? Vader, Palpatine, Leia?
Well, Leia is one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, so I would love for her to show up.
That'd
I
be great.
would really enjoy that. As far as Vader and Palpatine are concerned, I actually think that we'll see Palpatine in the show, but I don't think Vader is very likely at all. I I did a few weeks ago. I thought like Vader would be like for sure, because who else is gonna force choke someone? But then I slowed down the scene like really slow, where Deidre's being or where she was being force choked. But really, when I looked at it, she wasn't like holding her neck like a classic force choke. I don't think so. I would love to see all three of them, but realistically, I think our odds is going to be 2 out of 3. I think Palpatine and Leia would be the most likely of that group.
Yeah. And I mean, they always talk about not going to legacy characters in Andor because it's not that kind of show, and fans, whatever, they don't want it to be that way. But season 1, of course, doesn't have many legacy characters. Season 2 already has introduced Bail. It's already leading to Krennic and K2SO. Like, there's already some fun, familiar faces. So maybe, yeah, for sure, you could get a lot more. I think, a teaser trailer was shown at Star Wars Celebration that showed Admiral Raddus from Rogue One. And so that's another familiar face that we could be seeing. So where does the line end is sort of the question. Leia will be pretty difficult because we just talked about recast. I'm sure they don't want to recast Leia. Well, actually, let me ask you, because I don't really know your take on this. Obviously, you don't like the Bail Organa recast, and I'm probably in the same boat as you. but for now, I guess. Uh, what are your thoughts on like? And it's different for almost every character, but let's say Leia. If 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 Leia were to be in Andor season 2, would you rather her be recast or just deepfake her like they did in Rogue One?
I'm definitely would prefer her to be deep faked rather than recasted for sure.
Yeah,
I didn't dislike it during Kenobi when it was clear like she was recast. It was like a little girl that was playing her, but
yeah,
if we're gonna be like she's gonna be like 17, like we're talking like what, less than a couple of years until A New Hope at this point.
yeah.
Like I wouldn't want another actress to play her.
I agree, and it's almost it's again a conversation and an argument that will happen forever. What's the line? Because you're right, I almost forgot about that. She's recast in the Kenobi series as a young girl, but what's the line? Like where do we draw the line? At what age? Like it's probably. I mean, there is no line, I guess, but yeah, I agree with you. She should be deepfaked, and I don't know. Like I always ask that question because deepfake versus recast. It's such a I guess a personal preference type thing. But I have always been on board of the deepfake, especially since the Book of Boba Fett, where they gave us a whole episode of Luke and he looks incredible. And then in Ahsoka, they did a Hayden as 20 years younger and he looks incredible. So I think they have the ability to do the deepfake so well that it doesn't take you out of it at all. And I think if they do Leia, she should be deepfaked. But I mean, hey, tell us in the chat if you think otherwise. I saw actually somebody just mentioned
Ooh,
Millie
I
Bobby
like
Brown.
that. I like if we were gonna get an actress, I like Fearless's pick of Millie Bobby Brown. I think that she would do all right.
Yeah, I think so too. And people have actually like put her face onto Leia, and it looks pretty close. And of course, makeup and stuff can make a person look very very similar. But when you look at like even the recasts that George Lucas made for the prequel trilogy, they looked for Ewan McGregor specifically, or they casted Obi-Wan specifically to look like Alec Guinness. So they like took Ewan's face and aged it up back in 1998. And so that when he looked older, how close he would resemble Alec Guinness. And he looked very close. And honestly, he's continuing to look closer and closer. But there's still a 10-year gap between Kenobi and A New Hope. So there's still a 10-year gap between those two Obi-Wans. So I don't know if we'll be getting much more Ewan as Obi-Wan just so that they don't have to bridge that gap anymore. But I agree with you. When it comes to Leia, she should be deep faked in Andor season 2. Now the question becomes, if you take it to a different location, different place in the Star Wars timeline, like the Mandoverse, like if we're gonna do the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in Ahsoka season 2, and you're gonna introduce Luke, Leia, and Han. Well, I guess Luke's already been introduced, but Leia and Han. Do you deepfake them? Do you recast them? Right now they're deepfaking Luke, but should they just recast them all so they can tell more story without having to deepfake every single scene? I don't know. It's again an argument that goes on forever.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I ever want to see the three of them ever recasted again.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But there's so many people that are like, nope, recast them. Let's get more story with them. Just recast them. And the tough part about that too is it's not like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where you had an old Obi-Wan Kenobi and he dies, and then you're going way, way back and doing a young Obi-Wan. This is
No,
you already have young
yeah,
Luke, Leia, Han, and you already have old Luke, Leia, Han. You're telling the story in between. So to recast them there is a little bit different than with Obi-Wan and in other prequel characters for sure.
I agree, and that's where I'm at. Like, if they were to do something like after the sequels and they would want the three of them, at that point, I would then say to try to find an older actress that looks close to Leia and just have Harrison and Mark Hamill play their respected characters if we were to do that.
Yes, I agree. And you can deep fake that character. Like you
Yeah,
could take like what they did with episode 9. They took Carrie Fisher's daughter and then they deep faked Carrie Fisher's face onto her daughter. So it's probably easier because she looks somewhat like Carrie, but they still deep faked the face. Now I tend to go way off topic, so I'll reel myself back in here, going back to tying it back to Andor season 2. With the possibility, like you mentioned, of seeing Vader, Palpatine, or Leia, it would have to be in the last couple episodes because we kind of know what's coming in the next 3 with the Gorman massacre and all this uh,
Yeah.
K2SO stuff. So I guess it would have to be in the last 3 episodes. And honestly, the last 3 episodes are such a mystery to us. We've been piecing together piece by piece what these next 3 episodes look like with the Gorman Massacre, with Cassian going to Coruscant and saving Mon Mothma from the Empire and all that stuff. But after that, we're kind of in the dark, which is cool because you can predict till the cows come home what's going to happen. But it's also like, what's going to happen, you know? But I got a question for you. With the Gorman Massacre coming next week, my belief, at least going into last week, was that Bix was going to die in episodes 4, 5, and 6 because she's not at the Gorman Massacre, at least from what we see in the trailers. She's not there. So now that she's still alive at the end of episode 6, she's going to have to still be alive in episode 7, unless they kill her off in the year. They won't do that. But what do you think is going on there? Like, why is she either not at the Gorman Massacre? Is she already dead by the time of the Gorman Massacre? Or is she on a different mission than Cassian? What do you think's going on?
Well, I was thinking about that actually. 'Cause, like, you're right. The next 2 episodes are definitely going to be the Gorman Massacre. I was thinking very long and hard about this because in these last 3 episodes when I watched them tonight, was Cassian got like very frustrated that Luthen came and talked to Bix without him there and then didn't tell him about it. So I don't see Bix doing like any missions by herself without Cassian there. I actually think that she's going to be at the massacre, but we haven't seen her in trailers. I think she's going to have a very specific role that she's going to play while she's there.
Interesting. So you think that they're actually like hiding what she's doing in the trailers? Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I like that quite a bit actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. I want to clear this up on this live stream because I'm clearing it up all over the place. There was a little confusion in episodes 4, 5, and 6, and I'm glad that you have it clear. Because they were talking about this massacre that happened with Tarkin in episodes 5 and 6, maybe, with the monument in the center of the courtyard already on Gorman. Because Tarkin came, I believe they said 16 years ago or something, and he landed his shuttle on 500 innocent Gormans, killing them. So that's why that monument is there. That's why they're not happy about the Empire building this armory and all this stuff. But that wasn't the Gorman Massacre. That is the Tarkin Massacre. So the Gorman
people thought that was the Gorman Massacre?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of confusion. A little bit of a confusion. Okay. And it makes sense because they're both massacres that happen on Gorman. But one happened a long time ago with Tarkin, and one's going to happen next week with Cassian and Dedra and Cyril and all those people. So a little bit of confusion. 2 different massacres, both on Gorman. Don't move to Gorman if you have the option. Just stay away. There's probably going to be a third. Who knows? So just that's the clear.
And I don't disagree with. Yeah, were you going to bring that up about what he
Fearless says Bix might die in the massacre. I mean, Bix isn't in Rogue One. We got to talk about the obvious. Bix is not in Rogue One, so she's probably going to die within these next 6 episodes because Cassian clearly loves her and doesn't have her in Rogue One, so something has to happen to her.
Have you thought about the possibility that she leaves and just...
Oh, she doesn't die?
Yeah, just leaves.
I mean, with so many of these characters possibly dying, Luthen, Bix, Kleia.
Oh, Luthen's a goner by the end of this. He can't survive.
I agree.
Yeah.
But with all these different characters that aren't in Rogue One, so pretty much everybody but Saw, Cassian, and Mon Mothma, for the good guys, because Krennic survives, whatever, they're dead. Or at least we'll believe them to be dead. But a character like Bix, I feel like at first maybe she could have survived. If written correctly, she might go off and do something else or something. I don't know. But because of her now so strong relationship with Cassian, it seems like she's going to have to die. How she dies, though, is going to be very important. Because if she dies on some mission where she split up from Cassian and Luthen sent her on that mission, he's clearly going to be upset about that. We saw that this week in episode 6, like you said. They were arguing bad because he just went to meet with Bix. If he sends her on a mission and she dies by herself, Cassian's going to be pissed. So I could see something like that happening where Bix dies. Well, she's not with Cassian. He's not there to rescue her. And then he gets mad at Luthen and maybe even kills Luthen. Like, that would be insane. But Uh,
Oh, you took away my next question. I was going to ask, what do you think the odds are that Cassian is the one to kill Luthen?
I mean, I think it's not too high. The argument this week made it a little bit higher, but Luthen's death and Bix's death, for that matter, they have to be important. Like we saw this last week, Cinta's death. It wasn't important. I mean, it's important to Val and whatever, but she just dies to a random blaster fire. That can't be what happens to Bix or Luthen. Like that, it has to be something significant. Luthen sacrificing himself, Bix sacrifice, like something big, not just a random blaster fire. No offense, Cinta. No offense. Nothing against you, but it was pretty crazy. And so far, the trend is let's kill off a pretty important character every week. So maybe Big next week, maybe Luthen's the following week. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not holding it against either of them to not die before the end of this season is over. I feel like Bix actually has a chance to survive. I'm in the boat where I'm excited to see what they're gonna do at Luthen's death because I don't see
Yeah.
him being able to survive. They can't justify it.
No, they cannot. I mean, there's no way. He's the leader of the rebellion. He's not in Rogue One. He has to die. But his almost he seems to be unraveling in the last 6 episodes. Like early on in the first three, he's Kalea yells at him. She's like, "You're slipping. You're slipping." Like she keeps saying that. And then in these last 3 episodes, he has the argument with Cassian. Vel is mad at him for keeping him and her and Cinta away. Mon Moth was probably mad at him because he just offed her childhood best friend to take Homa. And now Clea and him have a big argument in episode 5. So like so many people are mad at him and he's unraveling slowly, slowly. So it might be friendly fire that kills Luthen. Like somebody close to him might actually be the one that takes him out, which would be crazy. I don't know how they'll pull that off, but it is slowly but surely seeing a Luthen unravel.
Yeah, I would love to actually, and I know this has been a theory that has been thrown around a little bit. I'd love to see Mon Mothma be the one that gives the blow to Luthen.
That would be crazy because Mon's never really in the battle. She's a senator, so she's never, and that would be putting her in the battle. It would be cool.
Yeah, and I think that with what we get later in the show, I think that she has more. She has it in her. I know that she can do it. She just needs to get a blaster in her hand and just finish the job.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening for sure. And when we talk about predictions, like they're setting up something pretty big with the Empire. They're almost setting up like an Imperial win, which we rarely ever see. The Empire always loses. The good guys always win. But right now, at least through the first 6 episodes, they're making it look like the Empire is 10 steps ahead. They're making it look like with Gorman, the way that Cyril is actually playing the rebels on Gorman to make sure that they do steal the transport, and the way that Dedra and Krennic are really pulling the strings from behind the scenes and making these rebels look like the bad guys, making the Gormans look like the bad guys with propaganda and stuff like that. That might be leading to the Empire getting a big old win, which would be crazy because that would make them be 10 steps ahead of Luthen for the first time because he's usually been always ahead. And it,
Yeah, and I like that side of that. I'd like to see that the Empire is
oh,
actually
yeah,
winning. 'Cause it doesn't feel like a force if the rebellion is always winning. That's
exactly.
why I, that's why I like Thrawn so much in Rebels is because it felt like
Yeah,
the rebels could never get a win on him.
you're not wrong. I mean, Rebels is my favorite show. Season 4, especially, and season 3, I guess, is just them taking loss after loss after loss. I mean, the ending is a loss.
Yeah, it's
They
not a
technically
win.
they get thrown off of Lothal, which I guess is technically a win. But Kanan is dead. Spoiler alert for Rebels. No, Kanan is dead. Uh, Thrawn's gone, but Ezra's gone too. So like, they're all just all over the place. It's not really a win. Now, I say spoiler alert almost as a joke, but I was getting whatever. It's a long story. Whatever. Now, so going back to Andor and actually tying it into our bringing up of Rebels, there's some connections between these two shows. They take place at the same time, and Mon Mothma and Saw Gerrera both show up in Rebels at certain points. And one of the big things is Mon Mothma gets rescued in space from by the Ghost Crew, and they take her to the Rebel base. But she's getting rescued from Coruscant. And it's explained that this is after the Gorman massacre, and she called out Palpatine, so she has to leave the Senate for good. And that's why the Ghost Crew picks her up. So what we're going to see, I think next week at least, is my prediction, is Cassian rescues, or we get the explanation of how Mon Mothma gets off of Coruscant and meets up with the Ghost Crew, which is probably Cassian rescues her, takes her off, and then we probably won't see the Ghost Crew in live action. Maybe a mention of them, which would be great, like Phoenix Squad or the Ghost Crew or whatever they want to call it, General Syndulla or something. I don't know, but yeah, there's definitely connections between those two shows, and we might get some references next week as to some of those events crossing over, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see.
Yeah.
Like, I, uh, I like that. I like that we're gonna see how Mon Mothma gets to space to where the Ghost Crew is gonna then take her to where she needs to go, and I like that we're gonna get the explanation in this show next week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm
And
excited to see how she calls Palpatine out in the Senate. Really,
that will be really cool. Yeah, absolutely. Fearless brings up something in the chat though. Says the Empire wins for sure in Andor until Rogue One, and that's where the Empire takes its first big blow. Honestly, though, Rogue One isn't really a. I mean, it's a win to an extent because the Empire loses, or the rebellion gets the Death Star plans, but it's not really a win because all the
no.
main characters, all the characters that we know and love, are dead.
Not
Like
to mention
that's
the Death Star still standing. Wouldn't I would
yeah,
say A New Hope was the first time they took their first big loss when they lost the Death Star.
yeah. I mean, I think Rogue One is a step to that because they get the plans, but it's not really a
Yeah,
win. I wouldn't say it's all that big of a win, but yeah,
mm,
for sure.
yeah. There was a question earlier in the chat by Adam. I have a question. Who wins, Exar Kun or Darth Maul? I'll let you take that question first.
I mean, it's tough going Legends characters versus canon characters. I mean, Exar Kun is quite powerful, but I like it's again Legends versus canon. Legends is so extreme all the time. Now maybe Exar Kun has some canon stuff. I don't know, whatever. But for the most part, I'm sure the majority of his story is in Legends. So you have characters in Legends like Luke is way more powerful in Legends. You have characters like Starkiller in obviously all the Knights of the Old Republic characters that are way more powerful than pretty much any character in canon for the most part. But I would say I still like my boy Maul. I love Maul. And
I
he's
completely agree with that statement. I think Maul would end up winning, but then again, Legends characters are way overpowered, so I
yeah.
still think that Maul being as strong as he is, having very few force wielders that were able to take him down, I think that he would end up winning.
Legends Maul. Well, Maul doesn't really have much Legends material. That's the thing. He's mostly a canon guy. It's I mean, you tend to take the Legends characters all the time, but nobody's taking down my boy Maul. He gets chopped in half and survives. Let's be honest. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that that is where I would go as well. I think Maul would end up winning.
Yeah.
Now, now thinking into the future for the next 6 episodes of Andor, we've already talked about like the first three, like next week's episodes are gonna revolve around the Gorman massacre and are gonna be explaining how that goes down.
Yeah.
A theory that I've thrown around to some of my friends even is that I think that we might see the death of Cyril or Deidre at the massacre, and I'd prefer it to be Cyril so that we could see how Deidre responds towards the Empire, letting him be there and die, if that is what in fact happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I hated Cyril in the first season, like with a passion. He just literally ate Cyril the entire freaking episode, like the entire show. Uh, it became funny at one point, and it's still funny, but whatever. Uh, so, but season two, especially these last three episodes, he's just become so ironically good. Like when he's in that conversation on Coruscant with Dedra and Partagas, and Partagas leaves the room after saying like "excellent job, Cyril," and he's like, "This is the best day of my life" or whatever. It's just funny, but it would be a blow for him, sure. But I think both of those characters have to die. At least Dedra has to die by the end of the season because she is moving up quickly, very quickly in the world, let's say. in the world of the Empire. So she would have that growth by the time of the original trilogy where she'd be a relevant character, a relevant person. So I think her death will be very important. Now, honestly, we see Krennic's death in Rogue One to Tarkin because of almost greed and power. Because Tarkin wants to take control of the Death Star, and he's like, okay, what better way than just taking out Krennic with the Death Star? His own creation kills him. Pretty wild. But I think something similar could happen, almost like poetry, it rhymes, where Krennic could take out Dedra. So it's pretty much more of a power struggle. Like maybe Krennic feels a little pressured, or a little like feels like Dedra's looking for too much power or something like that. And then he has a chance to, and he takes her out. I can see that happening for sure. Or Dedra makes a mistake. If she's truly freaking out because of the Gorman Massacre, I think the Empire's not really gonna deal with that. And last episode, Partagas warns her. She's like, "You're walking a very thin line between this whole Krennic top secret stuff and telling Cyril stuff." Because Cyril doesn't really know all that's happening. He doesn't know why he's trying to help the rebels and stuff. He doesn't know about Krennic's involvement. But that's if he finds out, then Dedra's gonna be in big old trouble. Yeah. So that'll be an issue too. So do I think, answering your question, do I think that either of them will die in the Gorman Massacre? Cyril is probably the most likely, if any of them do. But I think both of them could die by the end of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I would not dislike if either of them die in the show. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, in the first season, I found Cyril extremely annoying.
Yeah.
I wished that like he would have been killed in the first season, but with the way that he's come back in the second season, even though I like the first season more than this season so far, I think that with these next episodes, this season could become better to me than the first season did. And that's saying a lot because that first season is my second favorite first season of any show that we've gotten for Star Wars. So
Yeah.
I really do feel like it could move in a direction to where Cyril not only goes from being my least favorite character in the show to becoming one of my favorites with what they're going to do in this season. But I feel like his death could be something that moves him towards being a better character this season, because there are some characters that I just enjoyed, like when they died more than when they were alive and doing things.
Yeah. Well, there's always the theory that he could maybe like turn and maybe help the rebels as he goes out or something like that. Dedra seems to be going down an even darker path this season, and the actress herself has been saying that same thing, where like in season 1 people were like, yeah, woohoo, girl boss, like type deal, and now in season 2 they're like, no, she's just pure evil. And that's sort of what we're going to get when she's probably the one who commands them to do the Gorman Massacre and stuff like that. Like she's just going to be pure evil, you know?
Yeah, and that's where, like with Cyril, I wouldn't mind him turning and helping the rebels. With Deidre, I don't want no redemption arc for her. I want, if she's gonna go out, I
No.
want her going out as evil as possible.
Yeah, I agree. Some people just should remain evil, like
Yeah,
Palpatine. Yeah. I do want to hear some more iconic lines from Krennic, though. Like everything he says in Rogue One is great. Like, we stand here, and it's my achievement, not yours. Like, I want to hear more of that stuff. Uh, well, with Krennic and with already the mention of Tarkin, my question to you is, do you think we'll see Tarkin in this final 6 episodes? And obviously, it would probably be deep faked unless they recast Tarkin, which I seriously doubt. But what do you think about that?
I actually am gonna say no, because with all the issues that they had with Rogue One and being like sued for him being in Rogue One, I don't think that Disney's gonna let that slide with him being in the show, even if he gets recast. I don't think that that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think I mean, I completely agree. I think Krennic is probably a no because of the whole suing stuff, but even just if he's in it at all, it would be like one scene at the end or something to set up Rogue One. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, he doesn't seem necessary at this point.
No, I
Yeah.
completely agree. Like right now, I'd be okay like with Krennic like being the top Imperial outside of if we get like Palpatine or Vader that's in the show, like him being above everybody and like controlling them. And I like that what you said earlier about him maybe killing Deidre because she's wanting too much power, the same way Tarkin killed him for wanting too much power. I think that
Yeah.
would be like so funny to have that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it would be ironic and it would be poetic at the same time, because if Tarkin kills Krennic and Krennic kills Dedra and like it just the cycle just keeps on going and going and going. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's so many, I guess, important characters that could appear, but at the same time, it's like there's so much storyline going on between these characters. We're following really 3 and 4 different arcs every single week here. The first week we got the stuff with Cassian on Yavin 4, the stuff with Bix and Brazo on Mina Rao, the stuff with Dedra and Krennic, the stuff with Mon Mothma and Luthen at the wedding. That's 4 different stories going on at the same time. That's very hard to do. When you look at some of the other Star Wars projects, like The Mandalorian, it's just one. It's just Mando and Grogu. That's it. One story, boom, done. And that's why it's 8 episodes versus 12, because you're telling 4 stories rather than one. But in this next arc, we had 3 different big stories going on. The stuff with Luthen and getting and Clea and getting that stuff out of the recorder out of Davos's collection. Then you had the stuff with Mon Mothma and all that stuff with the parties and stuff like that. Then you got Bix and Cassian doing their thing, and Cyril on Gorman. Like, there's so many different things, different moving parts in all these things. So there's so much to deal with these specific characters, with this ensemble cast, that you might not even have time to introduce legacy characters. Like, you can mention them, like Palpatine gets mentioned all the time, and Tarkin's been mentioned, but to see them is a whole nother thing, because it takes you out of it. What people don't really remember from episode 6 is how great the ending was, how crazy it felt for just them trying to get a recording device out of a old artifact, like how tense that was. They remember Bail Organa being recast. Like, that's the thing that steals the show, because he's a legacy character. So I don't know if they really want to steal the show away from all these great storylines that are going on, you know?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I will admit, like, if out of those 3 episodes, 1 and 2 felt extremely slow to me. Like, I was having
Yeah.
a hard time keeping up. But season 3 really did pick up. I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed
Yeah.
seeing how Luthen and Krennic were interacting, how Mon felt extremely uncomfortable with Krennic in the room. I don't think that that's just good writing. I think that those actors and actresses did great jobs with making it feel tense in that room the whole time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why these 3 episode a week works. At first, I hated that. Like, they were only going to do 4 weeks of Andor when you have the chance to do 12. That's stupid. But when it works the way that it works, because you're absolutely right, the first 2 episodes are not nearly as exciting and important, or I guess they're important to make the 3rd episode make sense, but they're not as exciting as the 3rd episode. So if you released episode 1 and episode 2 week, throughout the course of those 2 weeks, people are going to be like, oh my God, this show's so slow, this show's so boring. But when you get them all on the same day, it's like watching a movie. Like, it's act 1, act 2, act 3, and it all comes together
Yeah,
in act 3. So it works
yeah.
very, very well.
And I feel like now, seeing how the episodes have played out, it was a really smart decision for them to release 3 a week, because if
Yeah.
I was sitting here like I just only watched the first episode, I'd be like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I might just stop
exactly.
watching it altogether. I really needed those 2nd and 3rd episode to.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of them learning their lesson too. I feel like Andor season 1, the viewership numbers were so low because that's the same thing that happened. The first 3 episodes are really slow. They are. It's a real slow grind to get into that first season, and I think a lot of people just didn't want to do it. They didn't want to stick through it, and they didn't want to get introduced to all these new characters, and they didn't want to do all that stuff. And it was Andor and all that stuff. So I think you're absolutely
Yeah.
right that they saw what didn't work and they fixed it to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And like I said, I really when I say I disliked this season, I'm referring to comparing it to season 1, not comparing it to all of Star Wars. It
Yeah,
has
yeah.
still been a good show this season. Just
Yeah.
when you go out of the S tier level show that came the first season, and now this is like sitting at like an A or a B for me, it's like, well, yeah, I'm comparing it to the first season, where it's like I enjoyed the first season more. But comparing it to like any shows that came out in 2024, it's better than all of those, in my opinion, that came out that year.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. For sure. I think I'm just liking it a little bit more than you, and that's perfectly fine, obviously. But yeah, I completely get that, and I think still we have a whole another half of the season. Well, that's the thing too, is like people look at stuff not as a whole. Like we talked about the first season, people watch the first 3 episodes and go, "I give up. No, I'm good. Nah." But like they're telling a
Yeah.
whole story. That's just the setup. You're missing the punchline. Like you're leaving a joke. You're leaving a comedy before the actual good stuff happens. So it's really like you gotta see the good part. We've been setting up for this Gorman massacre for 6 episodes now, and it happens next week. So that's what we've been
Yeah,
waiting
I
for.
will definitely not be waiting until Friday next week to watch the next three. I
Yeah,
will definitely be on Tuesday night sitting down and watching the show. I
yeah,
will for sure be doing that. And I am very excited to see what they're going to do in the next 3 episodes. And like you said, like the following three after that, we're talking 10, 11, and 12. Like, I couldn't even begin to predict what's going to happen in those episodes because I don't know what the Gorman Massacre is going to set up for those last three to do.
yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing that I've even thought of at all from the trailers and from all this stuff is just the Death Star and setting up what
Oh,
happens immediately in Rogue One. Because Rogue One, right off the bat, a Imperial pilot has defected. Brody, or is it Brody? Whatever his name.
Bodhi.
Bodhi, yeah, thank you. Bodhi defects, and the first scene with Cassian in it is him going down that alleyway, talking to the guy with the hurt arm, and he gives him the information that a pilot has defected. He's on Jeddah. He's talking to Saw Gerrera, all this stuff. Galen Erso, Death Star, or doesn't say Death Star, but they're building a weapon, a very powerful weapon, a planet-killing weapon. All that happens immediately at the beginning of Rogue One. And this show leads directly into that beginning of Rogue One. So those last 3 episodes of this season have to involve the Death Star, have to be leading into that stuff. Because I believe at the beginning of that Rogue One scene, Cassian knows who Galen Erso is. Like when the guy in the alleyway says, "Oh, this defective pilot says that Galen Erso something about death, whatever," and he goes, "Galen Erso, like the Galen Erso, whatever." So he knows who Galen Erso is. Right now, he doesn't. Currently, it's episode 6 of Andor season 2. He does not know who Galen Erso is. So that has to change by the end of the season, moving into Rogue One. So I think really what the last 3 episodes are going to be are going to put an end cap on this season somehow, some way. But it's also going to be a very good lead into Rogue One. Because I think honestly, the Gorman Massacre has been the thing that's been being built up since episode 1 of this season. And I think that might be like your finale. Like next week might be the finale of this second season. And then the last 3 episodes will all be the real finale, but it will be leading into Rogue One, giving us the Death Star, giving us Krennic, giving us maybe some Tarkin, maybe some Vader, probably not, but giving us more Death Star, more Rogue One, more that stuff. In the story that's being told in Andor season 2, specifically about Gorman and that whole rebellion thing, that'll be playing out next week. But I mean, that's the only thing I could possibly even think of because, yeah, we're completely in the blind going into episodes 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now that you say that and brought up Galen, do you think that there's a chance he makes an appearance in the show, like in the last final 3 episodes?
I
Him building
mean,
the Death Star, him doing something, a name drop
yes,
maybe.
a
I
name drop for sure. A name drop for sure. But actually seeing him, maybe. There was a weird thing, like, I don't know, 8 months ago or something, when they announced that Mads Mikkelsen, who plays Galen Erso, was going to be at Star Wars Celebration. When they announced that, I was like, okay, maybe they're just going to confirm that he's in it at Star Wars Celebration. But Star Wars Celebration came and went, and Mads Mikkelsen came on the stage and left the stage, and there was nothing about Andor season 2. Actually, they might have asked him about coming back to the character, and he was like, "I can't say anything," or so. I don't know, whatever it was. But obviously, they have Mads Mikkelsen still doing Star Wars stuff. He just went to Star Wars Celebration, so he could
yeah.
definitely be in the season. It seems like a no-brainer to bring him in, but I just don't know how they would do it. It would have to be a scene with just Krennic and obviously no heroes. Like Cassian can't meet him. He can know about him, but he can't meet him. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a mention for sure. But seeing him, I don't know. What do you think?
I think we'll get a name drop, and like you said, with him showing up to Celebration, there's a very likely chance that he could make an appearance. With him being able to say nothing on the stage about him coming back to Star
Yeah,
Wars, there's a chance, but I'm not going to hold my breath that he'll be one that returns. Name
yeah,
drop for sure. I don't know that we'll see him himself in the show.
yeah. I mean, it seems Andor is all about the name drops. We get name drops all the time. We're like, oh my god, Palpatine! They're going to a meeting with Palpatine. Let's go watch that meeting. No, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I do think that a name drop will be very prevalent in those last 3 episodes now that I think about it. Maybe even in the next 3 that we get next week, maybe.
Yeah,
But it'd
could
have to
be
be at,
for
like, the
sure.
end of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and like Joe says in the chat, like Celebration made him think highly likely that he'll be in it.
oh,
I thought so too, yeah, for sure. I mean, his
yeah.
answer on the stage, I don't remember it really, but I think it was more so like I can't say or I shouldn't say or I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Some telltale signs that he
Yeah, just keeping a secret or something like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, even if he would have said no, I mean, we've had Star Wars actors that have told bold-faced lies that have now returned, like Ben
Oh, all the
Mendelsohn
time.
did. Yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, as an actor, you can't say that you're going to be in it. Like you sign all these contracts that if you tell like that
non-disclosure agreement, yeah.
you're in trouble. So actors, directors, they lie all the time. So that's when like Tony Gilroy says Palpatine's definitely not in the show. I'm like, okay, sure, because if he was, you'd tell us, right? No, so
Yeah,
your word means nothing until I've seen it with my own two eyes. So maybe he's telling the truth, maybe he's not. I don't know. But you can't rely on what actors and directors and writers say because they can't tell the truth, or else it would ruin the story. So yeah, that's why all those
yeah,
questions are kind of useless at this point.
yeah, really. It's just gonna have to, like, wait it out and see, like, legitimately, like, there's a lot of things that I thought, like, before the season was gonna come out that I thought would have been in the show, but so far through 6 episodes, a lot of them have not come true.
Yeah, and I see 50 Thunder said in the chat, in Rogue One, when Jin has the flashback scene where she's a child and Krennic is having drinks with her dad Galen, where does that fit in the timeline? So that would be before all this. That's when Galen is working for the Empire first, because the second time he goes to work for the Empire, his wife's dead and Jin's not with him. So this is the first time he's working for the Empire before he leaves. So that's years and years and years ago. Jin's like I don't even know. How old is Jyn Erso in Rogue One? Do we know? I'll look it up.
Mm,
Hang on. How old is Jyn Erso in Rogue One? She's approximately 25 years old. Okay. So she's a child in that. Like she's 5, maybe 8. I don't know. So we're talking at least 15 years before that. So probably not.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, 'cause at this point, she'd have to be Cassian's age or pretty close to. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not too much younger than Cassian.
Yeah. And Cassian and her don't meet until Rogue One. So that makes me think she's not going to be in it. Her dad is way more likely than her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, with all the name drops, maybe her name gets dropped, but I don't even think that's very likely because she's
I mean, maybe Saw could allude to her because Saw has a relationship with her, but even that,
yeah,
like, probably not.
yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah.
Do you have any last predictions before we get on out of here?
Last minute predictions. Well, of course, as I always do, everyone will die. And that's not even an over exaggeration. I think Bix will die. I think Luthen will die. I think Kalea will die. We know that Cassian dies. We know that we know that Krennic dies. We know that Saw Gerrera dies. We know that K2SO dies. We know that everybody dies. So my prediction is going to be very spot on, accurate, 100% guaranteed. Everyone dies. It's the only prediction that can be right because even if it's of old age, everybody dies.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Now, I really don't have any last minute things. I'm very excited to hope that these last 6 episodes are going to
Yeah.
stick the landing for me so I can keep enjoying the show even more than I have for the first 6 episodes. And I think that's was the same thing for me even in the first season was that the last 6 episodes were much better than the first 6 for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the hope in the world. Stick the landing.
Yeah. Now, last thing before we get on is in 2 days we get a new show. How hyped are you for Tales of the Underworld?
That is a great question. It's even as you were saying that, I was like, 2 days we have a new show. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's been kind of under the radar because of Andor. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, Asajj Ventress, Cad Bane, two incredible characters. I literally just finished rereading because I haven't read it in years, but the Dark Disciple novel because if you've read that novel, Asajj Ventress dies at the end. So how is she alive? How is she in the Bad Batch? All that stuff. I think that's what's going to be explained or Yeah, that's what's going to be explained in Tales of the
Yeah.
Underworld. But in terms of Cad Bane's story, I don't know. The trailer seems to be hinting at something about his best friend, former best friend. Something happened to him. He did something wrong to him. I don't know. Cad Bane is not really. I don't know what the story will be there. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as well. Like, I'm very excited for it. They're two of my favorite characters in Star Wars. I love them both a lot. Like, they both
Yeah.
have great character development in the shows that they're in. Even if they were just background characters, really, I'm still they couldn't like with the last two Tales of series. We got Tales of the Jedi. They picked two characters that were great. I loved them, both of them. Then
Yeah.
in Tales of the Empire, they picked some very rather interesting characters that I'm not sure I completely agreed
Yeah.
with. And then they come back with this, and I'm like, okay, maybe they learned their lesson from Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see how it will all go down. I do think that the like rumors going around for who that young Jedi is with Ventress, I don't think I agree with any of those theories. I don't think it's Jod. I don't think it's Petro. I don't think it's Balin. I don't think it's any of those. I think it's going to be a new character we don't know.
I completely agree. I think, yeah, it's going to be completely new. But that's not always a bad thing. No,
No,
it is not.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with
All
that
right.
being
Well, this
said, I
was,
do need to get out.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you so
And I
much for
really
coming
hope,
on.
of course, and I really hope that it gets a lot better for you.
Oh, Andor.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for Mike for coming on, and we'll see you guys in the next stream. Bye.